I had always wanted to visit Japan, not just the big cities or the famous landmarks. What I really wanted was to experience something older, something more traditional, a quiet place, a real Japanese house. So instead of booking a hotel, I decided to rent a small, old house in the countryside. A traditional wooden home, the kind you usually only see in photos. It was surprisingly cheap for a full week, almost too cheap. There weren't many reviews, but the pictures looked perfect. Tatami rooms, wooden beams, sliding paper doors, exactly what I had imagined. When I arrived, the house looked just like the photos. It stood alone near the edge of a small mountain town, 2 stories tall. Old, but well maintained. Inside, the air smelled faintly of wood and tatami. Everything felt quiet, almost too quiet. That night, I lay down on the tatami floor upstairs, scrolling through my phone. The host had sent me an old floor plan of the house earlier that day. It was written entirely in Japanese, but the layout was easy enough to understand. I rotated the image on my screen, trying to match the rooms with where I had walked earlier. And that's when I noticed something strange. On the first floor of the diagram, there was a square space. Not a room, not a closet, just a small area, completely surrounded by walls. No door, no hallway leading to it. Just a box, sealed inside the house. At first, I thought I misunderstood the drawing, but the longer I stared at it, the stranger it looked, because that space shouldn't exist. The longer I looked at the floor plan, the more it bothered me. So I got up. I walked downstairs and opened the image again, comparing the diagram to the actual house. The hallway matched. The kitchen was exactly where the plan said it would be. Then, I found the spot. According to the drawing, the strange square space should be right behind the kitchen wall. I stood there for a moment, staring at it. Just a normal wall. I knocked on it lightly. The sound was different, hollow. I knocked again, a little harder this time. Definitely hollow. I stepped back and looked around the kitchen. Cabinets, shelves, a sliding door to the outside. But there was no entrance to whatever space was inside that wall. I walked around the entire first floor, checking every room, every closet. Nothing. No hidden door, no staircase, no way in. Curious, I stepped outside and circled the house. From the outside, the wall looked completely normal. No window, no vent, just wood. Which meant one thing: if that space really existed, it was completely sealed. I went back upstairs and opened the floor plan again. This time, I looked at the second floor, and that's when I noticed something else. The strange square space on the first floor had something directly above it. The tatami room, the exact room I was standing in. I slowly looked down at the floor. Tatami mats covered the entire room, arranged in neat rectangles. At first, everything looked normal. Then, I noticed one board between the mats. The nails holding it down looked newer than the rest. I knelt down and pressed my hand against it. It shifted, slightly. Carefully, I lifted the board. Underneath it was a dark opening, and hanging down into the darkness was a rope ladder. I just stared at the opening for a while. A rope ladder, hidden under the floor. My first thought was that it had to be some kind of storage space. Maybe an old cellar, maybe something traditional. But something about it felt wrong. The ladder disappeared into complete darkness. I turned on my phone's flashlight and leaned over the hole. The beam of light barely reached the bottom. It looked like a small room, maybe a few meters down. I hesitated. Then curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed the rope ladder and slowly began climbing down. The wood creaked quietly above me as the ladder swayed. When my feet finally touched the ground, the air felt colder, damp, heavy. I lifted my phone and looked around. It was a small underground room, just large enough to stand in comfortably. The walls were bare wood. No windows, no furniture. At first it looked almost empty. Then the light moved across the floor. There was an old futon in the corner, flattened, as if someone had slept on it for a long time. Next to it sat a small metal bowl, empty. I slowly turned the flashlight toward the walls. That's when I noticed the marks. Scratches. Hundreds of them. Long lines carved deep into the wood. Most of them started near the floor and dragged upward, toward the ceiling, as if someone had been reaching up, over and over again, trying to get out. A cold feeling ran through my chest. I slowly raised the flashlight toward the ceiling. That was where the rope ladder should have been. My light shook as it reached the top. The opening was gone. The wooden board above had closed. No, 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 no. I rushed to the wall beneath it and jumped, trying to reach the ladder. Nothing, just solid wood above me. I shouted, "Hello?" My voice echoed through the small underground room. No answer, just silence. Then my light drifted back to the wall beside the futon. There was writing there, carved deep into the wood. The letters were uneven, desperate. I stepped closer. It said, "Your turn." My stomach dropped. Below those words were dozens of other carvings, names, dates, and at the very bottom, space, an empty space, just large enough for one more name.